Today, our talk is, what's your nature? And so we're going to start with quiet for a few moments. Give you a few moments to think in the calm about what is my nature, not me, you. What is my own nature? And allow the words to flow within you. Notice that you may have a word come to mind and you discard it. Just let it be there. You may have a word come to mind that you think, oh no, that isn't even a fact. Just let it be there. What is my nature?
So what is your nature? Did you figure it out in a short period of time? Well, let's start with the idea, what is human nature? Because we are human, right? And so what is your human nature? And what is that in relationship to God nature? Or, even yet, if God is all it is, can there be a separation between human nature and God nature? If God is all it is, then human nature is God nature. Several years ago, I went on a hiking trip, a week-long hiking trip through the redwoods in Big Sur, California. Amazing area, such huge trees, and right along that rugged coast going into the rugged ocean. And it was an amazing week spent in the forests and immersing myself in that bosom of nature. And it came up the last day, and I'm sitting around with some friends and having lunch, and one of the guys says, I'm really dreading having to get on the plane tomorrow and go back to the real world. And one of the other companions said, this is the real world. That world we're going back to is fabricated and mechanical and materialistic, and is not really as close to the real nature of who we are as being here in the woods. And that just was a huge awakening for me. And I said, yes. Because I had was such peace there. And knowing I was leaving there and going back to work and dealing with finances and stuff. And I realized that this sense that I'm feeling is the real reality of life. This is my true nature. And so I came up with the idea that wherever we are, we're always just hiking in nature. Although sometimes our surroundings don't look very natural, do they? We forget to, and we need to see the perfection of where we are at all times, and the perfection of who we are at all times, and bring the perfection of who we are into our surroundings so that we can see the world in a different way. So we recognize what our nature is, and it's not the struggles and the challenges that we face every day. It's the good stuff. It's the good stuff in our hearts, because that is what's projected into our environment. Human nature is God nature in physical form. If we're stagnant, we're not displaying or appreciating life, then life is not showing up to us as we would like it to see it. Life is active and ongoing, and if we are active and ongoing and moving forward in our lives, we're going to see exciting things. Obstacles in life, whether they're self-imposed or otherwise, are natural opportunities to experience tremendous variety, abundance of variety, to appreciate new perspectives, to find deeper meanings, and to rise above the challenges, to actually literally rise above them and go beyond them in our lives. We either make the change or we be the change that we want to see in the world. That is our nature. And that nature is found within us, not in the things around us. I read this great quote this week. It says, every time I witness a strong person, I want to know, what darkness did you conquer in your story? Mountains would not rise without earthquakes. Same thing for us, isn't it? It's the stuff that we have overcome that brought us to where we are. And sometimes if you look back and say, man, my life was so rugged and so difficult, but where are you now as a result of going through those difficult times, those difficult places? And I read another quote that says, when you come out of a storm, you won't be the same person that walked in. That's what the storm is all about. Do you remember Alice in Wonderland says, it's no use going back to yesterday because I was a different person then. I'm a different person now because I have gone through that challenge. I've gone through the storms. I've gone through the obstacles, literally, and brought me to here. And if I am here now and I like where I am, I must therefore be thankful for all the stuff that I went through to get here. Change has a rippling effect. If you watch the old time travel movies, when they went back in time and they stepped on a bug or something and suddenly it changed the entire outcome of life through history. So when they came back, everything had shifted, everything was changed. It can make a profound difference in life. We look at it as the butterfly effect. The wings of a butterfly flap in China, it's going to make earthquakes and tsunamis and whatever, hurricanes on the other side of the world. There's a concept of entropy or disorder, and it says that all nature is in a state of disorder, and that's its natural state, to be disorderly. And if you look in the woods and you see a straight line of trees, or you see, I know that they've done these missions where they look down from satellites and look at the earth and they see these huge places where there are straight lines, and they wonder, how in the world did that happen? And there's a TV shows about great mysteries of life or something like that, where they actually go to those places and find out what's there and how it created those straight lines, as opposed to jagged lines that we would consider to be more natural. Whenever things fall into order, it's no longer natural. And so our lives, we think we're getting everything in order, getting in a straight row and getting all of our ducks in a row, it's no longer naturally orderly anymore. It's taking on a mechanical, physical perspective. Nature conservationists in Yellowstone National Park used to break down beaver dams because they were creating log jams and the rivers to flood behind them, and they were causing large wetland areas because of the deep beaver dams. And they thought that was a problem because it was they didn't believe that was right, and so they broke down the dams, and so eventually all the rivers were running freely and flowing freely. And after years of letting the rivers run free, moving through ecosystems without any obstructions and without sharing their resources with those areas, unfortunately, it changed the entire landscape of Yellowstone National Park. It was moving through ecosystems without sharing its water, and it was blocking wildlife migration paths, and erased uncontrolled and washed out sensitive areas. And they decided to let the beavers build their dams again. And as soon as they did that, the park immediately began to rejuvenate. Disorder was a valuable part. Yes, the wolves were going away. And so then the wolves came back and the elks came back. And animals that were beginning to become extinct were coming back just because they allowed the beavers to build their dams. I don't know if you've seen where they've, throughout the country, they built, like we built the Hoover Dam, and they built these other dams for power plants and stuff, and to maintain water for the areas. And they began to see that the salmon were no longer swimming upstream anymore because they had nowhere to go. They couldn't spawn. And so it caused big problems. So they went ahead and knocked down a lot of those dams. And so there was a big mission to knock down all the big dams that they had previously built, because they found that what was happening in nature around us was detrimental to our lifestyle in general. Let entropy take over. Let nature take over. so that our human nature actually reflects what is happening in the nature of nature. You know, so it's true of ourselves as well as the natural elements. When we let Spirit move in and through us, being sensitive to spiritual intuition, life flows and life blossoms, because that's the way it should be. Emerson, Troward, and Holmes all talked about the idea that life is forever moving forward and expanding, and evolution is a natural process. It's a natural progress. It's because it's cause and effect at a universal level. Spiritual laws are aspects of our inner nature, and they're outpictured in our environment around us. Our mental state is our natural state. Our mental state is our natural state. And that which we see as our physical form is a creation brought about by our mental state. So dreams are not illusions. They're windows into our inner truths, and nightmares project our underlying fears. Dreams reveal our fondest hopes. In some sense, dreams are more natural state of being because they display unlimited possibilities. You can do amazing things in your dreams that you can't do in this physical experience.
Maybe.
What's that?
Maybe.
Oh, I can. I can fly and I can run really fast and stuff. And they inspire us to live more openly and more expansively. We relate to nature when we enter into nature, and we feel the openness and expansive feeling when you walk into the forest and you see the huge expanse of the trees and the open areas. And when you walk out onto the beach and look at the ocean, a sense of openness and expansiveness and awe for me. I mean, it's the first thing I think when I go over the bridge and see the ocean out there. Is, wow, that's a lot of water. It must be amazing to live on the beach and look out there in the morning. So when we enter into nature, we feel openness, expansive freedom. And when we rely on our inner nature, we internalize and personalize these feelings of openness and expansion, because that is the truth of who we are.
Yes, it is. Love
So
it.
it is.
I love it. And Science of Mind teaches us this. This teaching teaches us that the universe supports us. It teaches us that the universe supports us to the degree in which we, each of us, recognize who we are. Another way to say this is you choose how you show up. You choose who you are, what your thoughts are, and your thoughts, both conscious and unconscious, dream states also, which draw you into certain and specific behaviors, feelings, and experiences or consequences, and we sometimes label those positive and negative. Now, David told you the awesome, wonderful part about his brand new truck, and I'm going to, your what? Our truck, yes, okay, our truck. I have what some might label a problem, a situation with this truck, and it is this. We talked back and forth. Probably most of you have bought a car, so you know how that goes. We talked back and forth for a while, and he comes back out of the office, and
With
he's...
the dealer.
What?
With the dealer.
From being with the dealer, yes. And he says, gives us the number, and I said, and that's out the door. That's the number, that's the loan. Yes, ma'am. Well, we didn't get any paperwork that night after we signed our name about 30, 40 times. David had to return the next day, so they said they'd give it to him then. So they did give it to him then, and that was Friday, because it was Thursday night when we got it. And so yesterday, finally my day off, I look at the paperwork and I look at the bottom number, and I'm like, no, out the door was $5,000 more than what he stated out the door loan would be. So, I have a situation. Of course you know exactly what I did. First and foremost, I started praying. But if you know me, honesty, loving relationships, caring are one of the highest values, the highest value for me. So we aren't going back today because I still have a little residual that I'm going to have to deal with in prayer before we have any kind of conversation about this situation. But I am knowing that it absolutely resolves perfectly. And I'll share more with you about that soon. So here's the truth of your nature, and David gave you a lot of it. God is all that is, and so there is nothing else for you to be. You must be God. You must be love, and those salespeople are also, and there is only one. It's all God, you included. Ernest Holmes says, our mind and spirit is our echo of the eternal thing itself. And the sooner we discover this fact, the sooner we shall be made free and happy. And I can't wait until all my thoughts return to that completely. They're mostly there. But what happens is, God is your pal. And I'm using the word pal like friend, like companion. And I'm using the word pal because I'm using it as an acronym for peace and life. God is peace and life, and we are each peace and life. Now, prior to writing this talk today and thinking about it, we had already we had not purchased the truck. So when I went back and reread, I was like, oh goody, peace and life. That's my goal, peace and life. Do you ever have moments like that where you have to really keep saying it over and over and over because something has happened and you're getting stuck in the mud and pulled down by the quicksand and you want to go, you. But the truth is, me. How am I going to show up? How am I going to handle each and every situation, knowing that God is my peace and God is my life? Being in an attentive relationship with the divine, staying focused there, the living presence of peace and life, that's true living. And we each have the opportunity to do that, no matter what's going on in life. It's being in touch with our divine nature. So how do we do that? Well, first, we've talked a whole lot in the past months about meditate, pray, treat, vision, and be in nature. So I'm not going to go back and talk about those, although I will say those are the most important. But a second way is you. Take good care of yourself. Say regularly, I am important. Say it with me. I am important. Say it again. I am important. Accent that I. I am important. I am. Whatever words we put after I am, we make those our truth. In a Science of Mind magazine, someone wrote, it's not selfish to love yourself, take care of yourself, and make your happiness a priority. I think sometimes we're taught that it is. And in this article, they wrote, it's not selfish to do that, it's actually necessary. It's necessary to love yourself, take care of yourself, and make yourself a priority in life. It also says the totality of your being is loving presence. Loving presence in our we believe statements. We call that the highest God and the innermost God. And that highest God and that innermost God is embodying the fullest expression of being in you. It is in you. It is of you. It is as you, because it is you. Maya Angelou says, if you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you are. Once again, say, I am important. I am important. Stop being normal. Live your amazement, your amazing self. So you may have heard this story before, but it's one well worth repeating, and maybe you haven't, and so you might like to look it up. There's actually a movie, and it's Sylvia Plath, who was an American poet, and she wrote The Bell Jar. It's a semi-autobiographical novel, and it conforms closely to events in her own life. And in it, she wrote a part that's called The Story of the Fig Tree. And I am going to share that now. I saw my life branching out before me like the green fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch, like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband, a home, and children. Another fig, a famous poet. Another fig was a brilliant professor. While another was E.G., an amazing editor. Another fig was Europe, Africa, and South America. While yet another was Constantine, Socrates, Attila, and a pack of other lovers that with queer names and offbeat professions. And another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion. And beyond, way up above, all these figs were more figs that I could not quite make out. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of the fig tree, starving to death, because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one seemed to mean losing all the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black. And one by one, they slowly plopped to the ground at my feet. My friends, we must decide what is my nature. We must stand by it, live by it, remind ourselves of it, and we must say, I am important. We must make our spiritual magnificence radiate the truth of our being. So how? With me, with this truck? Well, here's what I know. Stay in prayer. Know that this is only about me to the degree I make it about me. Read the fine print before you sign your name, even when they say, oh, just put your initials here, and oh man, yeah, you can sign your name down here like 5 times, so yeah, just get signing and initialing. Read first. Don't trust anything except the universe. And know. David said to me, boy, your intuition was right when you said, let's get up and walk out and think about it. Just like those figs, there are many, many choices for us. And there is no right or wrong choice for any of us. But we experience the consequences of those choices because that is a part of our divine nature. We choose and we experience. So take a moment to just affirm this, to know this affirmation within you as I read it. I express God in my life because the universe is my pal. My nature is God, and I am important. Happy journeys.